Hello, Harriet. Did you want a story? I thought so. Granny and Grandpa said they're going to do a story for you. Here comes a video story for you.
Yes, Harriet. Granny and Grandpa miss you so much. And so we're going to tell you a story. Sorry that Granny looks so funny. I won't look funny in the story, I promise. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same brown old sandals and the same patched gown. Look at all the patches on his gown, Harriet. Oh, said George, I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town. He was feeling very sad because he was so scruffy. But one day George noticed a new shop. Look there, he's looking through the door of the shop. He's such a big giant. It was full of all smart clothes. Look how big the sock is, Harriet. So what did he go and buy? He bought a smart shirt. He bought some smart trousers, a smart tie, some smart black shoes,
Nice
a smart
shoes.
belt, and some smart socks.
Yippee.
Now I'm going to be the smartest giant in town, he said. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a noise. Someone was sniffing sadly. It's my neck, said the giraffe. It's so long and it's so cold.
Oh.
I wish I had a nice long warm scarf. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his scarf. It didn't really match my socks anyway, he said, and he wound his scarf round the giraffe's neck. Oh, it made a wonderful scarf. Oh, thank you, said the giraffe. He was very happy with his new scarf. As George went off home, he was singing to himself, my tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. But look at me, up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sail, said the goat. It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a nice strong sail for my boat. See, he's got no sail on his boat. It's blown away in the storm. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his new white shirt. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said, and he tied it to the goat's boat. It made a beautiful sail. Oh, thank you, said the goat. George was happy. He walked along and he was singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look at me, up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a tiny little ruined house, and beside the house stood a white mouse. Lots of little baby mice, and they were all squeaking.
Squeak, 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 squeak.
What's the matter? Asked George. It's our house, squeaked the mother mouse. Oh no, it burnt down in a fire and we don't have a house anymore. I wish we had a nice new house. Oh, look, all the little mice, they've got nowhere to live.
Oh.
Cheer up, said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. Anyway, it was hurting my feet, he said, and then he gave it to the mouse for their house. The shoe made a perfect house for them. Thank you, squeaked all the mice.
Yippee.
George had a hop along the road, and he didn't mind. As he hopped along, he sang to himself, my tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a campsite. Next to a river stood a fox who was crying. Oh, shame, poor fox. Can you see the crying fox there, Harriet? He's crying. "What's the matter?" he asked the fox. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped my sleeping bag in a puddle, and I wish I had a nice warm dry sleeping bag, because my sleeping bag got all wet in the puddle." Oh, and he's cold. "Cheer up," said George. "I have the perfect sleeping bag for you." He took off one of his socks and gave one of his socks to Mr. Fox. "Oh, thank you so much," said the fox as he snuggled into the nice warm sock. "Thank you, thank you." Wow, look at the giant, Harriet. He's got no shirt, he's only got one shoe and one sock, and he's got no tie. He's looking a little bit different, but he's very happy. He's singing along to himself. I wonder what he's singing. He's singing, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a squelchy, muddy place. Besides the bog, a muddy place is called a bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was crying and howling. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's this bog," said the dog. I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a nice, safe, dry path to walk across. Oh, no. "Cheer up," said George to the dog. "I've got just the perfect pathway for you." And he took off his smart new belt. "It was squelching and squashing my tummy anyway," said the giant George, and he laid it down over the bog, and it made a lovely path for the dog. Thank you," said the dog. "Look, he can walk over the messy, muddy part on the giant's belt." The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped along and he was singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. But my trousers are falling down.
Oh.
I'm now the coldest giant in town." George suddenly felt very sad and shivery, and he felt like he wasn't a very smart giant. He stood on one foot and he thought to himself, "I have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes." So he turned around and he hopped all the way back to town. When George got back to the shop was closed. "Oh no," cried George, and he sat down next to the door of the shop, and a tear ran down his nose. He felt very sad. He felt as sad as all the animals that he met along the road had felt. He was really sad. But then in the corner of his eye, he saw something that looked familiar, something that was popping out the bag on the side there. What do you think it is, Harriet? Hello, Grandpa. I wonder what that is. "It's my gown," said George the giant. "My lovely, wonderful old gown and my wonderful brown sandals." George put them on. Oh, they felt so wonderful and comfortable. "Oh, I am now the coziest giant in town," he cried, and he danced and he hopped all the way along the road back home. He was so happy. When he got home, outside his front door stood all the animals that he had helped, and they were carrying a big present for George. "Come on, George," they said, "open your present." George opened the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful golden paper crown. Do you see the crown there on his head, Harriet? A lovely golden crown that all his friends had made for him. And he put the crown on his head, and then they said to him, "George, we've got a card for you. There's a card that says to George." They said, Look inside the card, George. So George opened the card, and what did it say inside the card? Let's see. Why, it was a song inside the card, and this is what the song said. Your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat for a sailor for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. Here is a crown and to go with the sandals for the kindest giant in town.
Oh, did you enjoy the story, Harriet? Oh, I'm glad. Bye.